Well. Today we're going to look at the biggest showdown of the last 18 months. Marvel's Ultimate line versus DC's Absolute line. These two companies are fighting for your pull list, your cash, and your love, and everything that goes with it. Marvel's fresh Ultimate Universe goes head-to-head against DC's gritty, cinematic, Absolute reimagining. Who comes out on top? Based upon numbers, not just my opinions. Let's break it down and talk about the sales data from ICV2, Top 50, fan buzz, and everything in between. Here we go. Let's do it in 3, 2, 1. All right, let's set the background and the history so we know what exactly we're pulling the numbers from and how we make a determination about which one is best. Marvel's Ultimate line kicked off in roughly January 2024, bringing back that Ultimate Universe we loved from way back in the day from the early 2000s, starting with Ultimate Spider-Man, but with a little bit of a modern twist. We've got Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, Ultimate X-Men, The Ultimates, Ultimate Wolverine, and a one-shot called the Ultimate Universe 1 Year In, which was really focused on Nick Fury Sr. It's all about mixing nostalgia with new reader interests, like giving us married Peter Parker in Ultimate Spider-Man. That hits differently after years of mainline drama with The Amazing Spider-Man, so there's a lot of hype and a lot of drama about fixing what was broken with the mainline universe. DC's Absolute line, on the other hand, launched in October 2024 with their all-in push. The idea was to go big, to go gritty, and take on the top heroes like Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman, and now we're into Flash, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter. Plus, you have a fancy Absolute Batman War Edition that DC's aiming for big kind of cinematic movie type of energy. Both lines are going for their sales hard, but who's landing the knockout? Let's talk about the numbers. So if we're going to talk numbers, let's really talk about the numbers. We're pulling the data from ICV2's top 50 comic units based on sales from over 125 comic shops through Comical. Now, technically, if there's about 3,000 shops across the country, you want to be around 10% for a statistically relevant sampling. But 125 is the best we got, so we will work with what we have. Marvel's Ultimate line has 37 issues ranked over 16 months, thanks to its early start and 5 titles plus the one-shot which stars Nick Fury. Ultimate Spider-Man is no doubt the leader in this case with 19 issues, sometimes dropping multiple months in a month because you have first printings, second printings, and a little bit of an overlap depending on where it comes out in the month. It grabbed 3 number 1 spots in January, February, and April 2024, so it had a very strong start. Then you have the Ultimates, which is the mainline title focused on the Avengers, and Ultimate Wolverine. All 3 of those are holding somewhere in the top 10, generally speaking. Ultimate X-Men, however, debuted at number 1 in March 2024, and Ultimate Black Panther debuted at number 7 in April 2024, but they're both shakier. Black Panther went off the grid for a couple months there, like somewhere between October and December 2024 due to a brief hiatus, and X-Men slid to number 44 by January of this year. The Ultimate Universe one-shot hit number 3, but it's just a one-shot, so it really doesn't contribute too much to the overall ranking. So let's switch over to DC and their Absolute line, which has a much shorter run period. The Ultimates have been in the market for a much longer period of time, so DC, you would think, would have to struggle to catch up, but maybe that's not quite the case. They have 23 ranked issues, peaking at 6 titles in March of 2025, occupying the top 10. Absolute Batman is, by every measure, the top leader in that group of comics, with 8 issues and 4 of them ranking in the number 1 spot, October and December 2024, January, February of 2025. Absolute Superman, which has 5 issues out by now, is number 1 in November when it first released, and Absolute Wonder Woman has 6 issues and reached its peak at number 2 in October 2024. They're all basically sitting there hovering within the top 10, mostly towards the top end rather than the lower end of that rank. Absolute Flash debuted at number 2, Martian Manhunter debuted at number 4, and Green Lantern debuted at number 10. They're strong, not as strong as the Trinity. Plus, Green Lantern has been dipping even though it's only about 2 issues out by now, which is probably an early sign that maybe it's not catching on. But here's the kicker, and here's where we start to make the comparisons. If you take all those titles and start forming mathematical averages, the absolute average ranking, which means what average rank do they hold in that top 10 or more, absolute averages somewhere around 5.6. Way better than the Ultimates, which averages on the whole at 11.9. Absolute Batman holds a 2.6 spot, which means on average it's going to be between number 2 and number 3 in every single month, which makes it pretty much untouchable. Superman will be somewhere around the number 5 spot, which means pretty much in any given month, it's on average, it's going to be at number 5 for its ranking. And Wonder Woman is just a little bit below that by 5.5. On the other hand, Marvel's Ultimate Spider-Man is 3.7, which means it trends below Absolute Batman, but it's a little bit higher than Superman. And Wolverine is at a dead heat with Superman. They're both occupying the number 5 spot. But Ultimate X-Men is around 19.3, which shows that it's really starting to drop off, and Black Panther is down at 20.7. Between Ultimate X-Men and Black Panther, they're dragging down the overall rank average for the entire Ultimates line. It is what it is. Marvel's got more things coming, and DC is also got some things in the works, but DC is hitting the most by snagging 21 of the top 50 slots in December 2024 alone. And again, we're not comparing all of DC to all of Marvel, just Absolute to Ultimate. So what's driving these numbers? Let's talk about the stories, because I think at the heart of it, that's always what matters. Marvel's Ultimate line is all about giving fans what they want, sort of, maybe. Ultimate Spider-Man has Peter Parker married to Mary Jane. It's like a love letter to everyone who's been mad about the mainline Spider-Man being separated from Mary Jane since One More Day. X-Posts are going wild, calling it Marvel's best ongoing title for its heart and easy jump-in points, and I'd say that particular aspect is true. It's a top 5 seller pretty much on every single month. The Ultimates keep the buzz with big twists like that traitor reveal in issue number 12, which just came out. I'm not going to spoil it here, but it's, it's a traitor. We also have Ultimate Wolverine debuting at number 2 in January 2025, and it's all about pure berserker violence. So there's not much meat to the story, but if you like Wolverine just going all out, that's the issue for you. Unfortunately, Ultimate Black Panther, well, it's pretty much gone months at a time, falling out of the top 50. And I'm wondering if the story's just not clicking because there's a lot of water treading going on there. I don't know if Brian Hill was told that he needs to just hold in place until the maker returns, or he was given some other directive, but there's just a lot of wheels spinning going on, not much happening. On the other hand, you also have Ultimate X-Men, which started hot, number 1 in March 2024, but it's now down to number 44 as of January 2025. Maybe there's too many X books, that's a possibility, but also we have Peach Momoko's slice of life storytelling style and shoujo manga type of visuals that maybe just are not clicking with fans who love a traditional X-Men book. On the DC side of things, it's similar but different enough that it stands apart. DC's Absolute line is going for bold, kind of in-your-face reinventions, particularly of Batman, but also all the characters. Absolute Batman's gritty, street-level take is stealing a lot of attention, primarily for his physical look and the bombastic, gymnastical type of capabilities of his cape and some of the other gadgets he has. Shop owners like Bob Schaefer from Dragon's Lair says it's bringing fans back to the store. Okay, you can't argue with that. That's a good thing. Those 4 number rankings aren't a fluke either. Absolute Superman and Absolute Wonder Woman are bringing big cinematic energy. There's a lot of world-changing stuff going on in those titles, locking in top 10 spots like number 1 and number 6 in November 2024. The March 2025 debuts of Absolute Flash and Martian Manhunter and Green Lantern are riding that all-in hype, but Green Lantern's top drop to number 19 in April has kind of got me a little bit concerned that might be close to being one of the titles that falls off. The Absolute Batman Noir Edition debuted at number 23 in November. It's a nice flex, and DC's high production values are making waves, particularly with the artist choices. But I'm not sure if they're leaning too hard on Batman and Superman. Let me know in the comments section if you think they're putting too many eggs in the Absolute Batman and Superman basket. All right, we talked about rankings, we talked about the framing and the positioning of the story content. Let's talk about where it sits in market share. Marvel's Ultimate line had a head start, grabbing a huge 38.9% market share in the first quarter of 2025, while DC was at 21.6%. Ultimate Spider-Man even beat Amazing Spider-Man some months, and in this case I think we're up to over a year now where Ultimate Spider-Man is selling better than Amazing Spider-Man. With 5 titles, Marvel's got range, but DC's Absolute line launched with All In, which has started a little bit sooner than the Absolute Batman issue, which was number 1, which sparked a Q4 2024 comeback, pushing DC's share to 26.7. That's a little over a 5% gain, and cutting Marvel's lead to 33.3%. Retailers like John Robinson say both lines are good for comics, but Schaefer's giving Absolute Batman props for driving foot traffic. Fans on social media love Ultimate Spider-Man's heart, but Absolute Batman's stealing the show. Though some folks call it a little bit too loud, a little bit too extreme, and it's sort of copying the old Ultimate Universe style. I don't know if I would buy that explanation, but people are talking about it, and at least they're talking about something going on at the big two. So as a comic reviewer, here's what matters to me. It's what about those universes respectively are driving people to get interested and excited about comics again. Marvel's Ultimate line, I think, has the bigger range and diversity of titles. Ultimate X-Men is very different than Ultimate Spider-Man, which is very different than the Ultimates, which is very different than Ultimate Black Panther, as an example. But it's not all working together. They're supposed to be and intentionally created to be part of the same world and the same universe, but they don't feel like they are related to each other in a way that makes sense, especially when they're all intentionally moving towards the return of the Maker that's going to happen later in 2025. Ultimate Spider-Man and the Ultimates are still the top sellers, which probably doesn't surprise anyone, but Black Panther disappears for months on end, falling off the top 50, and X-Men's slide makes me think Marvel is not putting enough energy into getting some cohesion and getting some synergy between the titles. They don't necessarily have to overlap and connect, but they at least need to feel like they're part of the same world. DC's Absolute line, on the other hand, is a little bit tighter. The titles don't interact with each other. As a matter of fact, I believe Scott Snyder said that Absolute Batman and Absolute Superman and Absolute Wonder Woman don't even know about each other yet. But it is banking hard on Batman's popularity and Superman's popularity, which seems to be paying off. However, Green Lantern hitting number 19 in April 2025 is a red flag for that title. Can they keep up the momentum? Is it always just going to be the Trinity, or can they expand out in better ways? We'll see. I don't have May 2025 data yet. That's not going to be out for another 3 weeks, so I can't say for sure. But DC is looking stronger right now because it feels, even though the titles are separate, it still feels like they're all part of the same universe. So who wins the fight? Which one is better? DC's Absolute line or Marvel's Ultimates? If we go strictly by the numbers, if we go strictly by the averages and the percentages and who ranks better, and this is based on your sales data, DC's Absolute line takes the crown. Marvel's got more issues, 37 versus 23, and 3 number 1 titles with Spider-Man, X-Men, and the Ultimates, but DC's Absolute line has a better average ranking. They are more in line with 5.6 versus the Ultimates line, which is down closer to 11.9 if you take all the titles together. Absolute Batman's 4 number 1s are basically the front runner, and Superman and Wonder Woman keep it locked in within that top 10 range. Marvel's Ultimate Spider-Man and Wolverine are strong, but Black Panther and Ultimate X-Men are dragging that average down. DC's All-In Push and Absolute's Bold Vision give it the edge, though leaning so hard on flagship heroes could trip them up later. People will eventually get tired of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman if you don't do something new, different, and expansive. And that's the bottom line, but based purely on numbers. DC's Absolute line is on top, but Marvel's Ultimate line is still in the fight. It's not a settled argument by any means. For you comic fans, it might come down to which do you kind of resonate with more? Is it Ultimate's grounded fan service stories or Absolute's big, bombastic, cinematic storytelling? I'm rooting for both. I want them both to win, because a strong Marvel and DC is good for everyone. Remember, the rising tide lifts all ships. But what do you think? Are you an Ultimate fan more than an Absolute fan, or is it the other way around? Drop a comment below and tell me why you pick one versus the other, or do you like them both equally? These are my thoughts. This is the research, but I want to hear your opinions. So, thank you very much for joining, and stay tuned through the outro for more comic commentary and reviews just like this one.